My name is Dorit Donneville, and I'm a senior scientist at National Space Biomedical Research Institute, NSBRI. This meeting has two purposes. One is to stimulate discussions and also a call to action regarding the commercialization of the NSBRI science and technology portfolio. NSBRI supported technologies that are developed to support the austere environment of space lend themselves well to remote patient monitoring, diagnosis, and treatment, and can greatly advance and simplify care in the hospital, the rural clinic, the ambulance, and the battlefield. And to this end, NSBRI is committed to facilitating the transition of space solutions to earthbound markets. And in fact, this is one of our missions as an organization to support research for NASA and for human space exploration. We, in fact, are tasked with bringing some of those technologies to earthbound markets. The rejuvenated NSBRI Industry Forum, in fact, will strive to achieve this goal, and the commercialization workshop that you're attending today is just one mechanism that we will employ, and please tune in for future announcements of other activities.
Good morning, guys. I'm a venture capitalist, and that means that my wife doesn't ever know what to tell people I do. She just sort of mutters and turns and walks away. But I'm going to talk a little bit today about venture capital and if you're out fundraising, trying to commercialize, some of the things that are involved in that and how we look at that. Sante is a $132 million fund. We raised it a couple of years ago. Before that, as she said, we were with Sante Ventures, which is a $4 billion fund under management. And we like to do early stage for reasons that I'll talk to. I think that's the most exciting area. We focus all on healthcare, and that's why we really went out and raised our own fund. It's hard to do early stage healthcare out of a very large fund. It takes a lot of $5 million deals to spend $1 billion. And also, we did the math 3 or 4 times and figured out it was better to have your own fund than to just work at somebody else's fund. So that probably had something to do with it as well. We're based in Austin, Texas, but we really concentrate on the middle of the country, anywhere in the middle of the United States, and we do deals all over. We've got offices in Nashville and St. Louis as well. But our main focus is on Texas. We view Texas as sort of one place, so we don't differentiate between Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Austin. Maybe differentiate a little with El Paso, since I think it's closer to Chicago than it is to El Paso. And we will do our deal, and it's not uncommon for us to license technology directly out of the university and then build a management team. So we'll incorporate the company, form the company, recruit an executive team, and go from there. So when we say early stage, we do mean early stage. We also, though, have teams, what we call come in over the transom, where people have already formed the company and are asking us to invest, and we will do that as well, of course. And so it's kind of a balance. We looked at 800 deals last year, and we invested in 8, and that's about an industry average for the percent of deals that get funded. So I was going to talk a little bit about why venture capitalists do what they do, how we look at things, and why. It can seem very opaque to the entrepreneurs that come in and present to us as to what we're trying to do. So the venture business, or early stage venture business, is the hits business. You are going to be defined by the big hits that you have. That's a little different as you move to later stage venture or private equity, where their companies are already companies, they've already got revenue, and that changes the dynamic, because there your failure rate is smaller, because they've already kind of proven the concept and they're going, and it's just growth capital. And so the returns that are expected can be smaller for that. But for early stage venture, you're expecting a lot of the companies to fail, and that drives the process of what you're looking for, because the way we would say is that there are going to be 15 companies in the portfolio per $100 million raised. And of those 15 companies, if you just look statistically, 5 of them will fail. 5 of them won't fail but probably should. They just meander along. They don't grow up to be president. And one of the disciplines you have to have is to drown the puppies early. If you want things that are going to fail as quickly and as cheaply as they can. And then you're going to make your money on the 5 companies that didn't fail. But even on those 5 companies, you may make 1 or 2 or 3 times your money on 2 or 3 of them. And so it's the big hit that's going to define where you are. And again, all my partners are McKinsey. I always say I had to found this firm because I'm not smart enough to have gotten hired by it. All my partners were with McKinsey, so they just analyze the fire out of everything. And if you look at the top decile venture firms over the last 30 years, those that are in the top decile had 3 hits in their portfolio. Those that are in the top quartile had 2 hits in their portfolio. And those that are in the top half had at least 1 hit in their portfolio that's driven all the returns and the success of that company. So you're out there looking for hits. And so that means that when somebody comes in with a deal and they're presenting, they always want to come in and talk to us, spend the hour and a half telling us about their science and technology. I mean, it tends to be scientists, so they want to talk about science. And we stop them and we say, we'll spot you the science. We're going to say that works. Let's talk about, so what? If it does work, what are you going to do with that? How do you make a company out of that? Because if you can't get there, there's no sense in our going back and having to learn biochemistry pathways that I'd rather forget. So that's sort of a standard kind of thing that venture firms will do, and it really throws the scientists. They've got all their slides, though, they want to show you, but you have to look at how you would make that work. And so let's talk a little bit about that. If you look over the last 30 years, again, at exits, at what happened to those companies, 95% of them sold for less than $200 million, and 90% of them sold for less than $100 million. And so that's kind of the first thing to keep in mind. Now, the second thing is, if we're going to, the agreement we've made with our investors, and you can cynically say our investors are big Wall Street institutions and pension plans and Fortune 50 companies, and they are, but it's their pension plans. So this is grandma's retirement that we're talking about. And we've made a pact with them that we're going to do our best for grandma's retirement to make money for them. And they've given us money for 10 years. That's how long they've given us. Basically, the pact is, here's $130 million. And 10 years from now, you need to give us back $400 million because we are illiquid. You can't get the money back in between. And so you need a trade-off for that. You need to be able to do better than that than you can do in a savings account if you're going to tie up your money that long. And so the sort of industry standard people shoot at is a 3 times return. They don't always make it, but that is the idea. So if you're going to get a 3x return on that money and you're trying to make that out of 5 companies, that means that each of those companies needs to make you $80 million. So it needs to be a big hit. And those 5 companies take a lot of time. We are not passive investors. It's not like we just show up at a board meeting once a month. We are very actively involved and engaged in these companies. It takes a lot of time. And so the binding sites that we call them, of what we invest in, it takes a lot of thought. And so if somebody's got a product, but it won't ever be a standalone company, we're not going to be interested in that. If somebody's got a company and the market's not very big, and so you would have to dominate, own 80-90% of that market in order to grow up to be president, we're not going to invest in that. And we want things that people are going to buy rather than that we have to sell, because the cost of organically growing a company is just so high and it takes so long that it doesn't fit into the venture model well. And so when we're looking at these deals, forgetting about the science, looking at the market size, who's the logical customer, what's the sales cycle look like, and all those kind of factors are going to make a decision whether we're going to go back and bother doing due diligence on the company. And I'll give you an example of that. And the process of purchasing in a hospital is a very laborious thing. About March, the department heads start getting together and talking about their capital plan, and it goes through all these committees, and it's a 6-8 month process. And so if you're going to sell capital equipment to a hospital, the sales cycle is 12 months to 18 months long. And it's been shown there's no point in selling them something that's, a $50,000 item. You can't make that work. The cost of sales, the sales cycle is too long and laborious. It's not worth it. In fact, sort of this industry standard is if it's not going to cost $500,000, it's not worth selling as a capital item to a hospital. Now, you can do a per click or a rent to own or something where it's not a capital expenditure, but you don't want to get into the capital expenditure. Likewise, department heads at hospitals, it varies, but there's those that have a $10,000 max, there's those that have a $50,000 max, and so you need to figure out who is going to be the person within a hospital that has the authority to buy the item that I'm selling, and what's their authority level, and you've got to be sure that your sales plan involves selling to the person that has the authority to buy it at a level that he has authority, because you don't want to get into that trap of going to committee. It just will bog you down and kill you. So, good. Okay. So then after we've done that, we've looked at the market, we've looked at the market size, we've looked at the sales cycle, who the logical buyer is. Then the next most important thing is management, is the CEO. And I would rather have a C-grade technology with an A-grade executive any day over the best product that you could ever imagine and not the right manager. It is the most important thing to success of a company is having the right CEO. And that has been shown over and over and over. Now, there's so much great technology in this country, and that we see all the great science. I told you we spotted them, science, and the fact is you can, because you can find great technology, you can find great science, all that you want. And so that's never the limiting factor. It's never the constraint, with apologies to all the fine scientists here. That's not the thing that keeps us from being able to find deals. In Texas in particular, the constraint is CEOs that have a track record of having serially built and sustainable companies. And a lot of places that is the constraint. Boston and San Francisco have pretty good pools of those guys, but most of the rest of the country, it is a real constraint. And that's not because there aren't guys out there that can do it. It's because there aren't a lot of guys out there that have done it. And the difference is really a limitation that we have. We aren't good at judging who makes those 1,000 decisions that a CEO has to make every day. And it's hard for us to just interview somebody and tell if they can do that. And so the best proxy that we can have for that is to see if they've done it before. And so that's what we do. And when we go raise money, we're under that same light. When we go to the big LPs and say, hey, please won't you give us $100 million, the only way they can judge us is by our track record. And that's the strength or weakness of which that you raise a fund. And so that's also the strength or weakness with which we back a CEO, if they've done it before. Do we ever back a first-time CEO? We have. I can count the number of times on one hand and have lots of fingers left over. So I've personally done 26 deals, just to kind of give you a volume where we've done it, and my group, we've done 150 deals, and I'd say that the first time CEOs we backed have been less than one hand. So if you've got that, you've got the technology, you've got the CEO, you've got the market, everything is looking good, and then you sit down for the negotiation. Did this yesterday, and oftentimes the scientists will come in and they think, oh my goodness, these vulture capitalists are here, and they're going to take advantage of me. And I've been doing this over 10 years now. We could take advantage of you. The chances are that if we wanted to structure a deal. People get hung up on valuation, and you can kind of name your number, and we can structure the deal with a fine print where it doesn't matter what that number is. But that's not a good way to build a company. This is about aligning incentives. It's about getting everybody on the same side, so we don't sit across the table. We're sitting at a round table, and I always say, bring mittens to everybody so nobody can point fingers at each other. It's not a negotiation. It's, okay, we've got this technology, we've got this capital, we've got this team. We want to make this really a success. How do we structure that? We'll have guys that come in, they'll say, I won't even take a salary. Well, then you're worrying about paying your rent, and I want you worrying about making this company good. So we're not going to do that. There are a lot of industry standards, kind of what's for management, what's for the founder, how do you do pools of equity and vesting schedules. The market has been pretty good at boiling that down to a very efficient standard of what's done. And we show them that, and we follow that, and we talk about each little thing, why it's gotten to where it is. And generally, you either have gotten a relationship of trust and friendship where you get there and then you can be in business with each other, or it's just best to not be in business. And there's lots of deals that have got all the way down to that, and we'd sit and talk, and we'd just figure out, we're just not going to trust each other to be on each other's side enough for life's too short. Let's go do another one. And so that's sort of the final part. So we focus on superior fund performance. And I spent, my first part of my life practicing medicine, and thought that business was, why would you want to devote your life to business when you can go out and help people? I came to realize as we looked at the dysfunction of our healthcare system that we needed bigger forces than I could do as a single doctor in an office, and I got involved in public policy thinking, well, that'll work. And I figured out that even working on Capitol Hill in Washington wasn't a very good place to affect change. And so I finally became sort of a market-driven guy. I think the market can change healthcare, and that's what we're about. It's a great business. I feel like we're in where semiconductors were, the internet were 15 or 20 years ago, and that our healthcare system is so broken that we've got to make drastic re-engineering of the way that we deliver care in this country. And, the guy Malthus, who back in the 1780s predicted that by the year 1944, the population of the world would reach 2 billion people. The world couldn't sustain more people than that, and so the world would die, or everybody would just die of famine because we'd outgrown our ability to produce. And he actually was right for the calculations of how they could produce food at the time. But the thing that changed was technology. We advanced, we can grow more food now, so more people than 2 billion can live. That's the problem we have with healthcare as well. It's a $45 trillion unfunded mandate in this country of what we're spending to be 39th in the world in healthcare delivery. And we're not going to incrementally change that by squeezing fat out of the system. We're going to change that through innovation. That's what y'all are here about, and so I'm proud to be here with you. Thanks. Each firm is different. Each venture firm is different on that. And a lot of people say that they're early stage. It's kind of the buzzword of where you want to be. And what they mean is we want your revenue to be less than 10 million or something like that. So, but we are very early stage. We meet, I kind of spend my days going around meeting with university professors and medical school researchers. And the things we do hardly ever have more than just sort of an idea. And that doesn't mean we'll invest early on, but we've got lots of other resources. We're very involved with emerging technology funds of the different states and SBIR loans and everything. So we would rather meet early, and we'll either say we're not interested or we'll help the scientists make a plan for doing that. We've got a device we're working on right now that is right now what I call the $5 million PowerPoint. That's all it is a PowerPoint. And they want a $5 million pre, which is sort of a standard kind of thing that you get. And so we help them build a plan, and we know where the cheapest place to do animal testing is, and we've got relationships. So we can do a lot of help of building that to the point. We may do a seed fund, or we may find a seed fund for them, and then they already know they've got their funding. One of the biggest things that we can do is that we can recruit in a CEO that you could never get as a small company on your own. You know, a guy's not going to pick up his family, move across the country. But if there's an institutional backer and he knows that not only is this company well capitalized, but that if it doesn't work, he's got a relationship with somebody that'll stick him in another one, you can recruit a quality CEO that you otherwise couldn't get. Yeah, I would say we don't expect you to have that information. We've got researchers and analysts on our staff that get that information. So generally, we don't expect the researchers to do that work. That's kind of our job. We work closely with tech transfer offices that will often call us and ask us for that kind of information as well, because they don't really have the resources to do that as well. And that kind of makes the point. Tech transfer offices generally, in our opinion, we've got great relationships with them, and they've evolved to be good organizations to work with. We rarely get the deal flow from them. We usually deal directly with scientists, but they can be good resources for the scientists to kind of help them get the PowerPoints right. And there's a lot of different folks that are out there that kind of make their living helping firms get kind of ready for a venture presentation, and that's usually helpful. To use one of those firms, I see lots of firms or lots of scientists that don't have anything like that, and that's okay. But on the other hand, again, I saw 800 deals last year. You need something. It doesn't mean I'm perfect and that, boy, I got all the right ones and not the wrong ones. We were at AV. We always were noted because we passed on Dell 3 times and Whole Food twice. You know. It's a great question, and it's something that we and a few firms do a lot. I learned to do this at Austin Ventures, where we identify a pain point, and then we scour the world looking for a solution to that pain point. And I think that's a very good model to work at. There still ends up being a lot of creativity in cobbling together what's out there. We have one right now that we're excited about that's re-engineering primary care that went just like that. We had a strategic planning retreat where we looked at what can we do about the primary care shortage and re-engineering primary care, ended up with a product, and in fact I got to present it in the Oval Office a couple of weeks ago. So it's an exciting thing and a great way to do business, I think. So now I would say that we've not. I mean, I'll tell you, all of our LPs have been fine. We were a little nervous and checked, but everybody was fine. But there's a lot of quality firms that have had that happen, and a few points I'll make about that. One is venture is no more risky than any other asset class, done professionally, done properly, with a portfolio effect. Angel investing there's no way to justify that on a diversity thing because you can't get a portfolio effect. But with venture, as part of the alternative asset class, is no more risky than any other statistically. But what the big pension plans do is they've got this formula of how they allocate their assets. And so if the stocks go down and the bonds go down, and venture and private equity aren't marked to market, and so they stay at the same value while these have gone down, it looks like they're overweighted to private equity and venture, and so then they have to, and often by law, they have to pull money out and reallocate it. And so if you had the misfortune of being a venture fund out in the market in the last year trying to raise money, you were in real trouble. And a lot of quality firms with good reputations and that did great work have gone out of business or don't have any money to invest because of the economic environment. And so that's made it a more difficult time for people to raise money. It's made the cost of capital go up, if you will. So we have seen a lot of deals that the price of that deal was 40% of what it would have been a year ago. We have one biotech company we moved down from Canada that had millions and millions of dollars invested in it, and they just ran out of money. They would have closed their doors and gone away, and a great company. So it is a very difficult environment. So the question is sort of what to expect as an academic researcher. And I'd say a couple of things. One, often our founders, we want them involved in the company, and especially if this is research where their needed involvement is crucial to the company, we want, whether it's the founder or the CEO, both fall into this category, we want them to have enough equity in this company that they wake up at 3 in the morning thinking about it. And so it's back to that kind of sitting around the table. It's rarely that the founder wants to own more of the company than we want him to own. A lot of times it's just the opposite. I want the founder to get rich if this works. I want him to think about this when he wakes up and think about this when he goes to bed. And so we're going to structure the deal like that. And with the tech transfer offices, that's been one of the big shifts that we've seen over the last 10 years, where they thought their job was to negotiate for the university to get all the dollars they could to the university. And what that ends up doing in this environment is they're just not going to get their technology commercialized, and that gives them $0. And so it needs to be a win for them. That can be done. There's industry standards for that, but it really needs to be a win for that founder. It's rare, but occasionally you need that founder to actually leave the university and come be part of the company. And we've got companies like that where that's the case. It's really rare where an academic researcher has the skill set to be the CEO. And often they think they do, and they think it's about control. And you just have to kind of talk through that with them and show them the skill sets and the backgrounds and what you're looking for. And you kind of get comfort. You do lose control. If you do institutional funding, you're going to lose control. That's why this partnership team thing has to be. You're trusting somebody else, and if you don't trust them to do that job, it's not going to work. Very prominent East Coast University we spent 3 months with recently with a deal that everything else worked all the way down to that, and at the end of the day, the researcher's husband, who was a lawyer, just didn't want to give up control. And we were at the table with a term sheet ready to sign. She had signed off on it, and he said, I'm just not ready to give up control of this company. And we said, fine, could have told us 3 months ago, and didn't do the deal. But that role, you've got to get comfortable with a team, and there already needs to be that trust, or you shouldn't do the deal. You should go find somebody else to do the deal with. Yeah, I would say 10 years ago that was definitely the case. 5 years ago it was often the case, and that's much rarer now then. Again, because we just won't do a deal unless the founder that we need is going to get rich. I mean, and so we hardly ever have an argument with the founder over that. We used to have arguments with the Office of Tech Transfer because they were thinking that they needed to maximize the dollar value, but for the most part that's changed, and now tech transfer offices understand that getting research commercialized is good for their university. So. Well, it depends. The founder researcher's continuing role in the company depends on a lot of different things. Usually, let's say that this person is a national expert in this area that his research has developed, and his association with the company is going to be absolutely crucial. The big thing we're giving him is he continues to own equity in that company, and an equity of a substantial enough amount that it makes a real difference to him, and that doesn't change then. So he will be on scientific advisory board. He may be on the regular board. He's going to have defined roles that you talk about going in with the company with the different stages. At the same time, oftentimes what we'll find is that while he is a real expert, that as the company grows, there are other world experts that may play those roles better, and so that's a conversation. Again, that's why you have to have a relationship with folks, and everybody's got to be on the team and feel like they can trust each other, because it may be they're not the best person to lead that. And then you run into, as I think you're going to hear a little later today, sort of the ethical issues. I mean, if you're an owner of that company, that removes you from a whole lot of the investigation that can be done because you've got a conflict. And we very deliberately want you to have a conflict, a substantial conflict. And so that means there's some roles that academics have traditionally wanted to have that aren't appropriate for them. It depends. That varies to a person's circumstance and where they are in that project. I would say that I'll give you some generalizations. Generally, about 30% of a company is going to go to founders and management and a vesting pool. 20 to 30% depending on the circumstances. And then you divide that. We want the CEO to be very, very motivated. So a part of the equity has got to go to the CEO. The top managers, as the company grows, you've got a pool that you need to have that's vested over 4 or 5 years for the company to grow. And then the founder and his involvement. So there's a lot of different pieces that go into that. Depending on the sector, depending on if it's a device or a biotech or a service company or all these other things, they vary what those numbers are some. And how we do that, and how I think most firms do that, is we kind of take here's the norms, here's what the market is for these, this is how this is usually divided. And so then again, it's a conversation where people just don't want to be screwed. They don't want to do a deal that it should have been a different deal or a better deal. And so it's an educational process of this is how this works and why. Yes, but it's hard to tell you those because there's a lot of angel networks, and some of them, like the Los Angeles one, are very good and really do great. Some of them aren't so good. Sometimes I've seen companies, perfectly good companies, with screwed up cap tables because of angel investors. And so it's hard to tell you, because I can't tell you, it's like telling you blanketly how to go find a good doctor. You know, there's some good ones and there's some not so good ones, and so it's hard to do that. If you, again, I think tech transfer offices, if you're at a facility that has good ones, are a very helpful thing. Local business schools can help, and then ask your fellow entrepreneurs out there that have been successful for some names and contacts. We insist that people we invest in talk to all the other CEOs that we backed. We give them the name and number and list and tell them, talk to them, see if these guys are full of beans or not. Thank you all.